everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Making a Difference in Mental Health. I'm Danielle.
I'm Wendy.
And today, Wendy, we have another special episode. We're honoring and highlighting counselors for this month.
Yeah, so we have a special guest with us today. For the month of April, we're celebrating Professional Counselor Month. So last month, remember, we celebrated social workers, and now we're celebrating counselors. And our audience might think, what's the difference?
What's the difference, right?
So we're all mental health professionals, just different tracks in education, but we all do the same thing. We work with families and children and adults, and we provide mental health services. So this month is specially dedicated to our professional counselors. So our special guest is Nekisha Lakins, and she's coming from our Frederick office to talk about how she got into counseling. Welcome, Nekisha.
Yay, Nekisha. Thank you so much for coming. We're going to get right into the interview. But, could you introduce yourself to us? Sorry if I cut you off, but could you introduce yourself to us and let us know a little bit about your journey with ABH?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me. This is fun. This is actually my first podcast where I get to be a guest. So, yay. I'm excited about that. It's an honor. So I actually knew Michelle Jefferson from my practicum experience. And I've kind of worked in social services, more prevention, not direct one-on-one in a clinical setting. I was working there during that time, and then I was going to school, and I'd finished going to school, and it was about a year after I got my master's in clinical mental health counseling from Liberty University. Woo, woo, shout out Liberty.
Always.
And I was at the point where I was like, I need to be doing this. So I just reached out to her, and she was like, hey, have you heard of ABH? We had a conversation, and that conversation led to an interview with the site lead there, Amanda, and the rest is history. So that happened in November of 2023, and I started in late November, early December.
Okay, so you're quite a newbie, so welcome.
Welcome to the field.
Yes.
Michelle Jefferson is phenomenal. She's one of our clinical supervisors here at ABH and has worked with the company for many years. And you couldn't be in better hands. And I'm glad that she got you to come over to the company.
Yeah, I'm glad to.
So, Nekisha, can you kind of tell our audience what made you go just generally into the area of counseling? How did it impact you for you to say, this is it for me?
This is it. Yeah. I've always had an interest in psychology. Ever since high school, I took AP Psych. I was just like really interested in how the mind worked. And I guess in high school, if you were to ask me, I was like, oh, I want to be like a forensic specialist, maybe an FBI agent. I kind of like the CJ side, the criminal justice side of things.
She's talking my language.
I know.
Oh, yay!
Both of us, psychologists.
Yeah. So in the beginning, I started there. Then I went to my undergrad, which is at Morgan State University in Baltimore. Another shout out to a university. And there I, kind of was taken under the wing of the department chair. And he was just starting some research programs with actually Johns Hopkins and looking at some epidemiology and stuff like that. So he kind of sparked my interest in science. Even though I loved science, I loved it. I started loving it more, research. So I was headed toward a research career, but it was in social sciences. So maybe epidemiology, social science, looking at, what can we see as effective and looking at all that. So I then straight from that undergrad, I got into a different master's program, and I was headed on the research track. And then life, happened, and I kind of sort of got married my first year of grad school. So I've been married quite some time. And just the intensity of the program, it was headed toward the PhD, but it just wasn't the right time. So I terminated that program in the master's. So I have a master's in human services psychology, and that was really young. I got that when I was, I guess, 23, 24. I'm much older now. I don't know if I'm going to disclose my age yet. Let me decide as we talk. And fast forward, I was working in program evaluation research, contracting with federal agencies, one of them being National Institutes of Health. And so I was behind the laptop. I was working with the numbers, doing the data. I did get to interview people in different clinics and mental health clinic settings, but I wasn't able to provide the service. And as you grow, you learn about who you are. And I learned that I am really a people person, like from head to toe.
Yes.
And I just longed for that experience to work directly with people and come alongside them as counseling, I guess the philosophies around counseling talk about coming alongside. And that's what I wanted to do. So I'm working a job. I'm got a good county job, and I was actually a supervisor and I couldn't shake it. So I go to school. I get my master's in clinical mental health counseling, and then I still continue to work that job. It was a prevention program. It was a lot like what we have in GMA. Now we would run camps for 60 kids at a time and do after school programs, and they were all for kids who had lived in lower income communities. And so I was with them all the time, and all the time, even though I'm a supervisor, I have to look after my staff. I'm always doing these one-on-ones with these kids.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, I got to kind of make some decisions here. Is it time to make that move? And I made that decision. And after I actually took one of the certification tests for the licensure, which is my current license, the LGPC. Before I left that job, passed that, thankfully. Whew. And then called Michelle. And I was like, okay, got the whole LGPC. I'm ready to actually use this because I figured I had a timeline. You got to kind of get the hours in before it started. So that kind of a long-winded, but that was my journey. And I felt it was important to share that because I didn't start out knowing I was going to do this. And I'm middle-aged. I'm 46. I'm not ashamed of it. And then it kind of liberates me. I'm liberated now to talk about, you didn't have to start out doing what you're meant to do. Everybody's got a journey, and I've got more to do, So I also find I talk to young people about it a lot because they think, oh, I have to get out of college and get the job in my career. I'm like, no, you don't. Your journey is your journey. So, yeah.
Yeah. I always tell my daughter it's not a sprint at that point after undergrad when you're trying to figure out what you want to do. It's a marathon. You might try something for a bit and then realize it's not your passion and pivot as you did, that you really enjoyed working with people and being in contact with people. And so, as we talk about what's your favorite thing, Nekisha, about being a counselor? You mentioned all those good stuff, and I think that's why the majority of us do this work, because we want to help people, we want to be in contact with people, we want to make a difference. But anything else that stands out for you in terms of this field?
Yeah. I think the one-on-one for me is I get to focus on that one person, both the one-on-one and the slogan, right? I talk about this all the time with my clients. I talk about it in supervision, but I come from the tribe of fixers. I want to tell you what to do, give you the advice, and tell you to do these things, and I want you to do it in 2 weeks, and then then you will be better, and you won't have these problems, and I'm gonna feel better because you feel better, and that kind of had to die for me because counseling's a slow game. So I like to take the time to go, and I like to be one-on-one.
It really is. Now, Nekisha, you are speaking my language. As you're talking, I'm like, this is very mirroring of even my experience. I'm over 40 as well, so don't, but we all look good for our age.
Yes,
okay,
how about that? Let's clap it up.
Babies.
Well, and Wendy looks great as well.
Absolutely.
The OG, right?
Absolutely.
But the one key thing that you said before we move on with the interview, you said a lot of good things, and you talk about your journey. You come from a line of fixers, and I think also it's a generational thing too. Nekisha, you're tapping into generation. You're tapping into almost that expectation of a certain generation. Sometimes my group, we could have been a little bit harder on ourselves in college, and then we knew we wanted to do something. Like I wanted to be a lawyer, and I went to I found out how much it costs to be a lawyer and go into law school, and then I wanted to do the dual social work program. And but what I found, just like you, going into research, almost very similar track. For me, I'm chatty, talky, but also it's always that impact of wanting to touch one to another, wanting to impact someone, wanting to have that community, that care and compassion to show, intimacy. The intimacy and the advocacy for this work. Yeah. And so while research, you can pull the research, I found that it was very independent, and it kind of secluded you from having that one-on-one or even that group experience where you can see a group of students or a group of children or a group of young adults flourish with the impact of mental health and psychoeducation, so on and so forth. So you're speaking our language here when you talk about the shift from thinking you wanted to do one thing, taking, many, many years to earn the expertise and the certifications, and then having that aha moment where it's like, this is it. Let me go ahead and get this license, and now let's do the work. So your journey is amazing.
Right. It's good to have a job you're passionate about.
Yeah.
It's not a job. It's really a career. It's who you are. So that's absolutely wonderful that you were able to make that change for yourself.
Yeah, I'm super grateful.
So since we're talking about that change too, and the journey and the impact, how would you say counseling impacts your clients, your current caseload of clients?
Yeah, I would like to think, and I have some evidence, right, if they tell me, that it empowers them. There's nothing like when you have a client and you're, you're doing your skill set, you're giving them the tools or processing their thoughts behind their actions, things like that, their feelings. And then they come into the session and they're like, guess what I did? I stood up for myself. Or guess what I did? I used my anger management skills. And when I'm like, yes, but here's a little bit of proof. Sometimes we don't always get that gift of knowing that it's getting in, right? But when they are empowered, I feel like under everything that I do, like I never cheered, but like in my spirit, I'm a cheerleader. I'm like, yes, you can do it. You can do it. And I'm constantly, I always want people to feel like they can, right? Even if we start out with an I can't message, I'm like, it's okay. We can work with that. There is something you can do. If nothing else, you can breathe. Okay. We'll start there.
Okay. If nothing else,
breaking it down.
Right. If we got to go that far, we'll go that
far. That's good.
Right. So the empowering, seeing them being empowered with skills and the confidence and the belief, like even if, because some of them will say, you know what, I can't do this right now, but I believe that I will be in the future. That's all I need. I'm like, good. Okay. That's all I need.
Keep you motivated.
Yeah, for sure. So empowering them.
So that's really great. And I think it's a nice depiction of what can happen when you're working in this field with clients, and the transformation that they have is so rewarding for us as clinicians. And so as we come to conclusion, Nekisha, any parting tips that you'd like to share with the audience? Anything that suggests why we should be celebrating counselors, social workers? Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that, after a while, when you start doing this work and you talk to other people, they say stuff like, people who are not in our field, they say stuff like, I can't believe you do that. I couldn't do that. And you start to recognize, well, for me, this is like another Tuesday or another Friday, right? Like it's what we are if we're in it, for the passion reasons. And I think that the gift of being able to come alongside someone and sit with them in their pain, in their struggle, in their challenge. First of all, they didn't have to invite you. They didn't have to call up ABH and
key
say,
right there.
hey,
Uh-huh.
the fact that they made a move, or, if their parents are helping them, they showed up, they didn't run away, right? They're there. And counselors, social workers, they sit in the pain with the people. It's like sitting in a foxhole, it's can be scary sometimes. Sometimes your own stuff comes up, right? And they teach us, and you learn with experience that, you know what, we need to sit in the pain, because the only way we're going to get through this dark tunnel is this way. We got to look at the ugly stuff. And for you to come
through it. Yeah. The only way we can get or deal with it is to go through it.
There's no around, there's no over, there's no under, right?
No shortcuts.
Right. So I feel like for those of us who answer the call to do that, that's something we're celebrating for sure.
Absolutely.
That was big. I love that you said it is an actual gift. It does take someone quite special, patient, right? Having a certain type of care, a certain type of compassion for a specific community, like you said, to sit with them, to wait with them, to sometimes even have to, like you said, deal with your own things that may come up. But because of our profession, because of the study that we have, because of the work that we put in, we might be able to endure a little bit more than those same people that say, oh, I don't know how you could do it. Right. And like you said, it's kind of second nature for us. And that is something to be celebrated.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you said it's who we are. It's like our composition as human beings who get into this field of mental health. It's the desire, it's the passion to help others deal with their pain and to get on the other side of it. So I thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Nekisha. Now, before we go, really quickly, would you happen to have maybe a resource for someone? And this might not have been like one of the questions, we're throwing it in there though, but would you happen to have a resource for someone who may be seeking counseling, or who's just thinking about it, and because they saw this episode today, this is pushing them a step closer? What are maybe some resources or tips that you might have?
I don't know about like resources, like you should go to this site or whatever, but just go on to sites of the different schools that have this program, listen to podcasts like this, go on YouTube and search up what is it like to be on the positive side. Don't listen to the horror stories, right? Because there's always other reasons that happens, but just talk to people who are in the field and just get a sense of what is your everyday like. What's the best thing about your day? What are the challenges? Like, and if you can take the baby and the bathwater, as they talk about it, right? It's like, oh yeah, I can deal with that, right? No job is perfect. No career is perfect. Like yesterday, you get the text from the client's parents that are long and complaining. Like, we get that. But we understand that this is part of the process, right? And I will say that this field has so much support, you know what I mean? It just because of the nature of it. So to encourage someone to reach out to, whether it's school programs, talk to people who are in the field, really get some one-on-one with individuals who are in the field. And if this is your thing, it'll just inspire you all the more.
Yeah, to do that. I love that. Paying attention to all the support that you get in the field. I think we're talking about self-care again. Danielle.
Listen, Nekisha, some way, there's a couple things that always pop up. Self-care, sleep. In every single podcast we have, there is some form of self-care that pops up, either that we need to do or that, someone needs to take part in, or having sleep, like getting a healthy amount of sleep. And we as clinicians, we need that too.
So I love the support aspect of it for anybody who, as you suggested, goes to school websites, talks to people individually, because it's a tough field, and it's not an easy field. It's very finessed. It's not like we live by formulas and equations. True. This is human beings, human situations, and it does take a very special person to be able to manage through all of that. And so I do love stressing you get the support you need in this field. It's very, very important. We have a strong network of social workers and counseling professionals. We all do the same work. We all support each other, and we celebrate each other. Last month was Social Work Month in the month of March, and we are happy to celebrate our fellow counselors in April.
Yes. So Nekisha, thank you so much for joining us on today. I think that's it for our podcast. But again, Nekisha, thank you so much for
Absolutely.
us.
Thank you, Nekisha.
Thank you for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
You're so welcome. So this is another episode of Making a Difference in Mental Health. I'm Danielle.
I'm Wendy.
And we ask you to come back next time to watch us here as we make a difference in mental health. And we're always striving to make a difference in mental health.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.